This session is entitled Essential DJ Skills. That's quite an ambiguous title. Obviously, there's many essential DJ skills, and kind of it's debatable as to what is. Now, I was going to take you through a couple of kind of housekeeping things that you might find useful in terms of keeping your music library organised. So one of the things that might be useful to you, I don't know, does anyone use iTunes to organise their music library? Do you have it all organised within Traktor? Yeah. Do you use the folders at all? That's a good way of starting. I mean, if you create folders, and then you obviously can put playlists within those folders, so it means you can keep. You know, I'd have something like maybe, you know, funk and soul as one header, and then within that, lots of different kind of subcategories of it. So with house, you might have house as your main folder, and then deep house, funky house, whatever. One of the things I use in Serato is smart playlists. If you start using iTunes, then you can create smart playlists in iTunes, which you can then read from Traktor. A smart playlist is basically one that you set rules on it, and then basically it will filter your music according to those kind of rules. So you could search, or you could set up a playlist which is only tracks above a certain tempo by a certain artist in a certain genre, for example. Within Traktor, you can't create them, but if you go into iTunes, you can basically go up here and go File, New, Smart Playlist. So when you set one up, you can see here you've got rules that you can add to this playlist, right? So this is useful even if you're not using it as DJ software. You might want to find all your tunes that are 120 beats per minute or more, for example. It's a quicker way of doing it. Here, if I change this, I can say, right, BPM either is or is greater than or is less than, so I can tailor it. So I might say, right, my BPM, I want it greater than 120. Then I can add more rules to this particular playlist. So it might be, I want to find tunes where the comment says good tune or whatever it may be, or that contains the letter A, for example. And you can keep adding these parameters to a playlist. When you then click OK, name that playlist, and then any tunes fitting those that criteria will be in that smart playlist. I haven't got many tunes in iTunes, so that's why none have come up. But if you then go into Traktor, you can update or refresh your iTunes library, and then it should find that playlist that you've created, and then you can filter stuff according to those criteria. So what it means is when you drag tunes in, it's going to instantly filter them all into the relevant place. It means you don't have to mess around kind of moving stuff about. In Traktor, you haven't got like mood tags for your tracks, right? You've got, obviously if you press Control here, you've got all these different options to display for a particular track. You've got a comment field, but within Beatport Pro is basically a bit of software where you can add mood tags to the tracks. If you drag a tune into it, sync it with Beatport Pro, it will find the metadata for that track, and then you can add the like JPEG and the artwork, or you know, you can even go, right, I want to add the mood tags that someone else has said this track has, so you can import it from other people, kind of thing. For example, if I click on a tune here, it hasn't got the artwork, but if I go sync with Beatport, it searches the database, tries to find what it thinks that track is. Basically, when it does find the artwork or whatever, you can just press OK, and then it will add that metadata, yeah? And then here, you've got these mood tags, so if you click on here, you can put loads of different tags on a track, because it makes it easier to find stuff. You might want to do an old school set, or you know, whatever. You can quickly search via those categories, right? So you can add all these tags. Some of them are very questionable, throaty. I don't know what the hell a throaty track would sound like. Maybe a beatboxing tune or something. But you can add your own as well. So you can add all those tags, and then what you can do is export an XML file from Beatport Pro, and then use Traktor to read that XML file instead of your iTunes library. So it means then it's always kind of, every time you add new stuff to Beatport Pro, it will filter it, and Traktor can read it. Let's say I've set up a playlist here. You'd add a playlist, drag your tunes in, and then go Beatport Preferences, and then export. So here, you can export your Beatport Pro library as an iTunes music library file, like an XML file. So I've just done it already, but I've named it Beatport Pro iTunes library. If you've added loads of those mood tags, because Traktor can't display the mood tags, you can select mood so that all those mood tags would appear in my comments. So then when I go into Traktor, Preferences, and then under File Management, the iTunes music library, that's where you direct it to that XML file. So I could choose the file itself, which is on my desktop. Now it means I can go to my iTunes section within the browser in Traktor, and it's going to show me all of those tunes that I've ever put in Beatport Pro, basically. It's just a good way of keeping stuff organised, really. So that's now my library for iTunes. Refresh it, and there's that. You see what I mean? So it's kind of, it will have those mood tags on the actual comment field, hopefully. I'd advise you, if you can, just try and keep tracks like the comments up to date, the genre tags. It's always a good idea to have the genre in there, because then you can do smart playlists where you filter via genre and find tunes really easily. Sometimes, you know, depending on where you get your tunes, I know on Beatport sometimes it gives you like a massive string of numbers at the start of the file name and stuff like that. It can get a bit messy. Another little tip I might give you, or I'm going to give you in fact, is this little bit of software called Gemini Duplicate Finder. This is amazing, because if you're anything like me, you drag tunes into your Traktor or your Serato. You don't always have time to check every single tune you've added to your library. Sometimes I'll go through and, you know, do a bit of a listening session and then get rid of stuff that I'm definitely not going to play. But I've got just thousands of files on my hard drive, right? So Gemini, this isn't exclusively for music folders, but it's only like $5 or something on the App Store. You can just drag your entire music folder onto it. It scans it, and it goes, you've got 4 copies of that album artwork. Do you want 4 copies of that? And you can go no, and just basically delete all the extra versions of it. And then it gives you a running tally going, you've saved 5 meg, you've saved 100 meg. It throws it all into the trash can, and then you can empty that and get rid of it. Quite often I've had maybe 3 or 4 versions of the same file on there. You can also see the bit rate and everything. So if it's a duplicate, but you've got a WAV and you've got an MP3, you can go, right, get rid of the MP3. Let me show you, see if I've got any duplicates in here. So you just drag and drop a folder on, scan it, drawing file tables in my mind. You can get some lifestyle advice from it while you're waiting. So then you go show results. Then it's got duplicates of files. So it's found 2 of the same tune. So if I tick it, you can basically go through and go, right, okay, there's 2 of that. There's 2 of that. Then you go remove selected. It will say, look, if I go remove, you've just saved 203 megabytes. You could spend a few hours doing it. You're going to probably save a lot of hard drive space. Just remember, if you're on a Mac, actually empty the trash, otherwise it's not been deleted unless you've set it up as a preference. That has saved me, you know, gigabytes of space, basically. In terms of like DJ techniques that are essential, as I said, it is debatable. The most essential DJ technique these days is probably that action, yeah? Cueing is one of them, which is where you're physically rocking the beat forward and back. That's how you have to cue tunes on vinyl, because you haven't got cue points or anything like that. At the college, we teach, you know, this complete DJ course, which starts off at the very beginning of, you know, what is a cue point, how to rock the sound. A lot of students end up just going, well, what's the point? I'll just use the cue button. Cue buttons break regularly. At the college, we've got 10 setups. Almost on a weekly basis, we have to replace a cue button because they get hammered, you know, and I see students panic when the cue button doesn't work, and because they haven't practiced rocking the sound manually, they're not able to release the track on beat. So I would advise you, if you're not used to doing it, literally practice cueing a beat with your hand, because if that cue button breaks, you can always fall back on that kind of physical movement. Even if you can do that easily, kind of think, right, well, how could I make it better? So let's double the speed of it. So if I was doing it over a drum beat, I'd be trying to do it twice as fast. So if I was cueing over this, I could just be doing it on the beats. So like, if I'm going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, if I do it twice as fast,
let me holler at the DJ. Come on, DJ, put the record on a replay. Don't you see how I'm bitching with a bootay? Every time you play this record, smell like yes, follow them, screaming like a whoopay.
You just want to practice that till you can release it really accurately. One of the things we practice at the college on the course is how to do what's called a drop mix. It's where you just cut one tune out and cut the other tune in, right? So, you know, even on turntables before they had a pitch adjustment, you could do drop mixing on them because you don't need to be able to change the speed of the track. Generally, with dance music, you're dealing with 4 beats in a bar, so 4/4 time signature, and you're generally dealing with 8-bar sections of music, so things happen in 8-bar phrases, yeah? I've heard professional radio, Radio 1 DJs playing where they obviously aren't counting the bars and they just slam the thing in and it comes out of nowhere. That is a drop mix, but it didn't. If they'd have counted and worked out where the sections are changing and did it more accurately, it's going to sound a lot more musical, right? A drop mix is literally where you've found the first beat of an 8-bar section on your track that you're going to bring in. Let's do it with that one. If it's like an instrumental hip-hop tune, it might only be like a 4-bar loop, so the phrasing, as long as you're at the start of the 4-bar section, it's not as important. You've always got to think with the drop mix, you don't want to do something that sounds really out of place. So if this track playing on the right had loads of stuff going on, it's got a vocal, it's got loads of mad stuff, and then your next tune is at the start of an 8-bar section, but it's the very first one, it's going to be a massive change from loads of energy to just a kick drum, right? It's about energy levels as well. You might want to wait until the track's on an outro where there's less going on. You could maybe cue in the start of a phrase, a few phrases into the new track so that it's a bit more lively. Then it's not going to go from really high energy to really totally no energy. My mantra is, does it sound weird or does it sound good? Yeah, if it sounds good, do it. If it sounds weird, stop doing it, generally. You don't want to catch your audience out and everyone just be like, where the hell did that tune just go? So like with this, sometimes you might have to skip forward a little bit of the what's at the beginning because it might not start on the one kind of thing. This has got like a little vocal bit.
Big L, rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Then the one comes in, right? So we're going to talk about using those little bits of extra vocals and stuff in a minute, but if I want to cue this in from the start of a phrase, I'm going to have to miss out that big L bit.
Big L, rest in peace.
So that is the start of a phrase. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, yeah? So if I bring it back to that point, this one on the right, skip it forward a bit. So I'm just going to be counting where the 8-bar sections are of this. Really, it's just a kind of 2-bar loop. But I'd be kind of rocking this side, and then when this got to the end of a section, just literally switch the fader over, this cuts out, this comes in, right? It's good practice, even if you're going to generally use a cue button, because it means you have to release things accurately, yeah? Obviously, what you don't want to do is where you kind of fling the platter forward, or I don't want to be going, like, you can do it wrong, basically. You don't want to move this over and then press it, because then there's going to be a silent gap or whatever. It's just one of those kind of fundamental skills that is well worth practicing. And the good thing about this is, they don't need to be the same tempo. But again, you've got to think about the energy. If I'm going from a techno tune that's 125 beats per minute to a hip-hop tune, if people are dancing, you might catch them out a bit. I quite often do it where I've got the main drop of my new track queued up, so I've missed out a big, long intro, and then this one is building up, and it's about to drop, and then you cut into the drop of this. So that, in a way, it does catch the audience out, but it's like, it can boost their kind of enjoyment, and they're expecting, if it's two well-known tracks, they're going to expect this one to drop, and then it comes in with something else. Quite often you get a big cheer and, everyone loves it. That is a technique I use often because I play a lot of funk and soul and reggae and stuff like that. A lot of it is played by live drummers. The tempo's changing. Keeping it in time, if I've got two different tracks both independently changing tempo, is not easy. You can do it, but you've got to almost know the tune and know which bits get faster and slower. So you can still kind of do it a bit musically. That's the kind of basic principle of a drop mix. This 8-bar section finishes, this new 8-bar section starts, but it's two different tracks and they don't overlap. What you can do is embellish it a little bit, so even though they're not beat matched, it can sound like a bit more like a mix. So with this one, we've got him saying,
Big L, rest in peace. Rest in peace.
So if I worked out how many beats or bars that speech bit was, I could kind of do a mix where I use that, but I'd have to introduce it earlier over this one so that the one hit on the right beat, yeah? So I think it's like 2 beats. So it's like 3, 4, 1, yeah? So you could do it from, you could drop that for the last 2 beats of a phrase on this side, and then it kind of introduces that. It's like a little teaser almost, yeah? This one's just got, the last beat of a phrase is that word whoa, yeah? So it's like 8, 2, 3, 4, 1. Yeah?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I've set it as a cue point. So I might just use that over the top of the other track for a bit and make it sound a bit more interesting. So let's play this other one. They're the same speed anyway, but what I need to do is release this one on the last beat of a phrase, basically. So. So you can kind of use that as a little way of joining the two together almost, yeah? This has also got a little bit of a drum roll before the whoa, so sometimes you might get like a little fill at the end of an 8-bar section, like a 1-bar drum roll or whatever. Then it can sound good to switch to that, like at the end of bar 7 on this side. Then the last bar of the phrase actually comes from the new track. See where that drum loop happens? Whoa. So that's actually 8, 2, 3, 4, 1. So you could cut from when this is done 7 bars, drop in that one, and then it kind of drops in, right? Let's try that. So let's say we're on bar 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whoa. You know, sometimes it sounds a bit severe because that suddenly left, yeah? So I might do it where I fade the volume of this new, the previous track slightly. So people are going to be expecting a new thing to come in anyway. And then it's almost like a fade drop mix kind of thing. So you could be fading the volume down like this. Oh my God. Whoa. Yeah? So there's kind of ways you can just make it sound a little bit more interesting, and you don't need to be beat matching, really. The other way I often use is if I've got a really busy track and I don't want to wait for it to get to a less busy part, I use the break speed effect on the CDJs, so that kind of goes like it, actually you hear it slow down for a brief second. These aren't mapped to the Traktor break speed, but there is an effect in here called breaker, or it's like turntable effects it's called. So if I click on turntable effects, oh. Can you hear that? So it's kind of stopping on a single beat, basically, yeah? It's the same as if I had this like halfway up, yeah? It's almost like killing the track. So I've done it before where on the last beat of a phrase, I'll press that so that it stops like that, and then start on the next, on a new phrase of the new track. Right. Let's get to the end of a phrase. 2. I mean, just worth practicing. Try with different genres, see what sounds good, see what doesn't. You know, sometimes it's not even obvious you've changed tracks. If you've got similar sounding drums on the outro of one track and then the intro of your other track is similar, you can switch between them without even it being that noticeable. Another thing I was going to talk about, which is not an essential DJ skill, but it is a very useful one, which is like harmonic mixing. Traktor is also able to analyze and detect the key of tracks. So a minor key is an M, and a major key is a D, yeah? So I've got the charts here for us to have a quick look at. So all of these systems are based around this, well, the circle of fifths, if you've heard of that. So that's, you know, in a scale, the first note and the fifth note are generally harmonically kind of compatible with each other. So this is like the open key notation kind of chart. So the principle is if two tracks, say you had one in C major and the other one was G major, they would, in theory, be compatible because, you know, C, D, E, F, G, they're 5 apart, or the first and the fifth note in the scale kind of thing. And if it was C and F, F, G, A, B, C, that's 5 as well. If like the codes are next to each other on this wheel, then they're kind of compatible. And if they're one's on the inner wheel, then it's the one next to it on the outer wheel. That's kind of like the harmonic relative major or minor key of each other. Let me show you the Traktor one, because that will make more sense. So this is where, basically, if I want to analyze the key of some tracks, all I'd need to do is select the ones I want to analyze, press Control, Analyze. I could analyze the BPM and everything, or you can specify, right, I just want to analyze the key. So then, OK. It should start dropping in those key codes here. So you can see that one's 1M, or it says it's 1M, none of these key systems are 100% accurate. Use your ears more than you're relying on this, really, I would say. It's just a good thing to help you try out mixes that might work, and if they sound good, then obviously you can remember those kind of mixes. But I've got ones where it says, according to this system, it shouldn't sound good, but it actually does, so don't kind of let this rule what you play, basically. Apparently these two are in complementary keys. These are the kind of codes translated, so this 10M, if we look on here, is actually C minor. And the relative major key of that is D sharp minor. The good thing about this is you don't need to know any music theory at all. All you need to be able to do is add one or take away one and remember two different letters. So if I'm in 5D, I can go, right, that's compatible with 6D or 4D or 5M. Right, let's try these two. So this is 3M, this one's 3M. Bonus. They sound all right together. Obviously, you still got to worry about vocals overlapping and stuff, but that, you know, it might be that you just think, right, I want to use these 10 tracks in a mix, analyze them. That will give you a pathway maybe to get from the first one to the last one. You don't have to use this system. Some DJs don't at all. One thing you do want to make sure that you've done, though, is leave the key lock on in Traktor, because that means that you can change the speed without affecting the pitch. So you don't want to analyze the key and then change the key inadvertently. However, you can, if you want to, change the pitch using this little key change dial here. So this one currently is in 3M or whatever it was, but I can change it up or down. So you can obviously change the pitch without affecting the tempo as well. That's something that Serato is lacking, I think, at the moment. I think there might be an add-on effect, but you can't independently tune it unless you affect the speed of it. One little tip, if you are using this, because it's quite hard to get it to stick on exactly like, this is in semitones, basically, yeah? So if you're trying to manually kind of move this dial to get it on one semitone, it's really hard to get it to stay there. So if these little plus and minus arrows here, if you control and click on here, it brings up this little menu, which you can set it to different kind of amounts that it will move by. So if I select fine, now it's going up in one semitone increments, yeah? So every time I click the plus button, it goes up by an exact semitone. If I click on like default, it's going to go up by 2 semitones. So it's just a lot easier than physically moving the dial, and you know, you could waste half your life doing that. So with that in mind, someone in their genius has worked out how you can convert one key into another key, right? So this key conversion chart tells you if you are in, this is the original key around the edge of the wheel, yeah? So if I was in 2A, it might be that I haven't got any compatible tunes with the one I'm on, so I could work out how to tune it so that it becomes a different key, which would then make it compatible with others, yeah? 2A, if these little black arrows have a value next to them, and then they point at what that new key would be, kind of thing. For example, 2A or 2B, if I tune it down by 1 semitone, it would become 7A or 7B. Or if I tuned it up by 1 semitone, because this bit here, it would become 9A or 9B. Now, obviously, what you don't want to be doing is at a gig with 3 different charts, working out if I tune this, but you know, you're going to get booed off stage. But it might be that you're planning a mix at home. You can work out, you could even have this written in the comment, tuned by 2 semitones to make 2A or whatever. It's just quite a useful kind of tool. I've used it before when I'm making like a mashup and I'm looking for an a cappella and I find one that I want to use, but it's in a different key to the instrumental that I've made. And then I'll use this to work out, okay, I need to tune it by 2 to make it the relevant key kind of thing. And they've kind of limited it to 2 semitones either way, because beyond that, it does start to degrade the signal a little bit. If you tune it by 5 semitones, it's not going to sound great. There's also this other chart that I've found, which is it's where someone has written out the actual what notes on the keyboard each key contains and the key code for Traktor. So it's saying there, you know, C major, it's just literally showing you what notes are in the scale of C major and what key code that is. So that, unless you're a trained musician, you're not going to know all that, you know. It's quite a useful thing to be able to just go, right, I want to work in G major, what notes is that? Obviously for production purposes that can be quite useful.